to focus on myself. Who am I? I do not want to start out looking at who is going to give me happiness. If I am not happy, I'm not going to be able to attract happiness. So the bottom line starts with me first. Who can give me happiness? And now searching around, I know that first, God is the author of relationships. If I do not have a powerful, strong relationship with God, I'm not going to find a man that I can have a good relationship with. So that's where it all started for me. And although, thank God, I had a strong family background, and my father and my mother, they had been married until my father just passed away. And I saw him, I said, if I do not find a man that acts to me like my father, acted to my mom, that I wasn't going to be married. So I was blessed with that. But it got to a point when I had to remember that I'm a sinner. I need a savior. And I asked the Lord to save me and make me what he wants me to be as a woman. Once I got that in my life and I have that relationship with him, I said, well, Lord, who is that man? So I basically got my husband praying, and God opened that. And what has been helping us has been, I made a determination. I want this marriage to work. And so whatever the situation, I teach college, and that's the environment that I am. So I tell students, you want to be in college. For the next 4 years, it's your determination. I'm going to get a college degree. There will be some times that you have to be sleepless. You have to burn the midnight oil, that you need to study. There are projects to be written. Remember, the goal is getting a college degree. For me, the goal is making my marriage work.
That's right.
And the kind of marriage that is going to please God. And so whatever comes my way, and thank God for my husband too, we have the same goal. So whatever comes our way, the determination is this marriage is going to work by the grace of God. And so we invite the author of relationship, Jesus, and he's been helping us.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Number one, communication. When we have problems, we try not to extend our problem beyond 28 hours, most 40 hours. What we do, I always be the person to tell my wife, I'm sorry, for the sake of peace and happiness. Because I always like my wife to be happy. I want her to be happy, because knowing when my wife is happy, I'm happy. If you don't make your wife happy, when you go back home from work, it's a problem waiting for you. So you try as much as possible, I try as much as possible to make sure that my wife is happy. In many areas, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. When we have problems, one thing we do is try to take it away from our children, not to argue for our children to hear. I remember sometime many years ago, we had a little misunderstanding. My wife left for work, I left for work. I was listening to a Moody radio station, and my wife was also listening to radio Moody. And the topic they were talking about, the topic actually we had the misunderstanding. And as soon as the topic was off, I picked up my cell phone and I called my wife. Were you listening? Yes, I was. We started laughing, and that was the end of it. Ended everything. So communication is very important in any relationship.
Well, how would you say you would get this communication with some people? They don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it.
Well, the fact is that don't push it. Don't pressurize it. I've been with my wife for 22 years. So I know when, and I know what to do. That's what matters.
All right. Additionally, when we started out, we had made a determination. It's just like doing a business. We say if you are not having a plan to succeed, you're already having a plan to fail. You're already planning to fail. So one of the things that we talked about, my husband and I, was God helping us. We do not want to let the sun to see us angry. And so we would talk about the issue, because we're going to go to bed together. So we're going to have to deal with this issue and get it out of the way, even if you don't feel like talking about it, because it was a commitment. that we are going to handle this issue and get it out of the way.
Would you say the
Makes it
divorce
easy.
was not an option?
It's not an option by the grace of God.
Because,
It's not.
so many people go into a marriage and they'll say, well, if it don't work out, I'm just going to
You're already determining to fail. There is no plan to succeed. Yeah. So.
And what would you say to young men, like we were talking about today so often, that the young girls and the young guys want to get the notch in their belt, and the girls will say, do you think that's just a cop-out for the girls because they don't see a way out? They just figure, well, I can do it without him, and not really want to work at it. What would you say?
Not really wanting to work at the marriage?
Right, because
Well, it is like all of the other couples have said. It is really important for commitment. And I haven't, my husband and I, we have just lived life because life has been before us. Being in ministry has puts a lot of pressure on your family. It puts a lot of pressure on you as an individual. And so we had to make a commitment to be together. And when the rough times come, and believe me, they did come, and circumstances come around us, when I remember a time that we were getting ready to renew our vows. We had been married for 25 years. But at the same time, my mother was dying of cancer, and I had a lot of other needs that I had at that time, and I just felt like between the church and my mother, it was a little bit too much. And that was the only time that we ever used we call it the D word, divorce word. But eventually, we had such a commitment to God that when we get to those places of stress, honestly, we just say, like I'll say to my husband, you can stand on top of your head. I'm not going nowhere till we get it right. And so that kept us in the relationship because we had committed to each other. And he said the same thing to me. Times when he got really frustrated and he got really tired with my way of doing things and my need to have things my way. But he was committed to God, first of all. And second of all, he was committed to me. So
do you think that before, like we had mentioned, we get a license, or before you get a car, you have to take a driver's test. Before, they should come up with some kind of, I don't know if I should say a class or session that would take people through kind of a question and answer. Some people know nothing about each other, the colors. Do you really think that people should have everything in common? How would you say the best? Because I think there are some societies where the people do take some kind of question and answer period, or what would you say about that, Mrs. Apan?
Well, the young children themselves, I should be able to.
There should be something in school. Or do we turn everything over to school? No.
No.
Nah.
Not really, because most of them have not been to school.
Should be at home.
Should be at home. Let them know the impact, of getting married. If you want to get married, at least you have to study your spouse, or you need to. Maybe you have a relationship, be committed to whatsoever you want to do. If you want to get married, go ahead, but make sure you are committed. You are out for it. You just don't go out and begin to see some girls. You say, yes, I'm ready. I want to get married to you. But it's good for one to become. I mean, look at what your focuses are. Face it and undo it first before you make sure that you go into other places. Be sure that this is exactly what. Be committed to it before you get into. So we let them know the impact of it and what will be out of it if you are into it. If not so, never. Stay out so that you be happy in life and your life will move on.
Well, the fact that what needs to happen in general is that, and we do it in our ministry, there needs to be what you call premarital counseling. About
That's what I was thinking of, some kind of,
about it should start 6 months in advance of a marriage, because with that you determine whether that person is a fit for you. What the doctor said early, everybody will not make you a good wife. Just because somebody is little or handsome, got an education, got money, that does not mean that person will make you a good wife doesn't mean that that person is a fit for you. I tend to think that similar background has a lot of key to success. Probably the greatest struggle even my wife and I've had. I'm from a rural background, and she's from a city background, and that has caused some clashes simply just by background. Put it on, and so that and with that premarital counseling, it helps you determine whether you have the right person or not. And if it's done 6 months in advance, sometimes people don't want to break a wedding if it comes up to 2 months in advance. That is the hardest thing. People will go on regardless. They know they got the wrong person, but they'll go and do it because they've told everybody and it's on the books. But if it's done 6 months in advance, well, you determine of the engagement.
Before you actually make the engagement.
Well,
You should do the 6
even
months.
after you make the engagement,
This
if
is
you
what you do
do,
at your church?
Yes.
ma'am.
This is what you do at your church?
Yes, ma'am. This is what we
You
do.
can't get married
And
unless they do counseling.
exactly. Oh yeah, we will not marry them, and we never recommend that. In fact, just the other day, a guy, one of my counselors, counseled with a guy, and he discovered he broke the engagement, he broke the marriage 2 days before he got married, because he discovered that he had the wrong person. Yeah, yeah.
And that takes nerve.
Yeah, it takes courage, but it will bring happiness to him. And that's what it's all about. You see, the thing of what I tell young men is that you have people that said, I don't want to get married. Statistics reveal that the person, if a person, except for if I was 25 and you 25, we married and I stayed married all of my life, and the other person didn't, statistics reveal that person outlived the other person by 10 years. Marriage is good for you in every way. It's good for your health, good for your well-being. It extends your life, the bottom line. It goes back to the Bible. God says it's not good for men to be alone. And God really, it has a sociological effect in every way.
Ray, Jenny, can I just say something?
Yes.
When me and my wife,
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Charles, we're going to stretch this if we take it to 8:45.
8:28.
Okay, that's all right. I might make this an hour show or 45-minute show. So, yeah, tell them it's okay. It's okay.
yeah, I was going to say, when I started with my wife, I was 16, she was 15. My grandmother told me, you don't mess around. Her father told me and told her, you don't mess around. You all can go to the show, you can hold hands. You can kiss in the show, but you don't mess around.
That's right.
You're too young. You're still in school.
That's right.
I graduated from DeSable. I went off to college down in Kentucky and Maryland State. My wife finished high school. I came back. I got a job, Argo, worked there for 6 months. When I made 21. I went to the CPA, got hired on my birthday. The first check I got in January, went and bought an engagement ring and gave it to her. We got married that following June. That was our first physical touch. 5 years. I respected her for that. She respected me.
That's right.
And I said, I got a good woman.
Yeah.
And like I said, we've been together 58 years almost. Okay?
Right, and you don't have to worry as much when you got someone who's willing to commit
That's right.
to being sexually pure.
Right.
My husband and I had the same thing, and I tell anybody, I didn't know any other man. The only man I've ever known is Mr. Spencer Jones, and I'm happy about it. But a lot of people do not have that commitment, and if you going around and you drinking, trying the cow, and drinking the milk long before you get married, well then what's gonna make you want to buy the cow?
Right.
And that's where the
That's
whole
absolutely
problem
true.
is. So we have to really encourage one another to be committed
Yeah.
to what God says first, is that we should not be sleeping around with one another. And that
Right.
helps us to, so I know that when I go to my husband, I know, well, he's not out on the street. I can depend on that. But if he had been loose,
Yeah.
then I'd be thinking every time I turn around, well, I wonder if he's still loose. I'm married, but is he still loose? Well, I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
I don't have that worry.
Absolutely.
Mr.
Uh-huh.
I want to say something before we will ever round up. The problem we have in the society today are the byproduct of the 30 years experience that have come in. When we were growing up, we were looking up to the day we will be married, because then you'll be licensed to have sex,
Right.
you'll be licensed to do anything.
Mhm.
But these days,